this is Patty the Leather Lady with another video. You asked for it and I'm doing it. Okay, so I get a lot of requests for how do I stitch? How do I stitch? How do I stitch? And I guess I just have thought that you guys are gonna Google it or YouTube it, and there's a million people out there, but I like that you asked me and I'm gonna show you because you're my community and I love you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what tools you need, some of the different types of threads and things of that nature, because if you're working on saddles or if you're working on bridles or equipment, it's going to be a little bit different. But if you're making a leather project and you just want to stitch it super easy, okay, there are several kinds of stitches. However, I'm going to just show you the basic stitch today. And if you want a different stitch, you want me to show you how to do a different stitch, please put it in the comments below, and I definitely listen to your comments, and that's how I get my videos of what you guys want. Okay, so what you're going to have to do is have some leather. And that leather is either going to have holes in it, you're going to have made holes in it, or it's going to be just plain. Okay, so how do I get the holes? There's several ways you can get the holes. In this case, if you're using a bigger needle, say you're using a harness needle or that nature, you're going to want a bigger hole. So you could use a lacing chisel. So there are many kinds of lacing chisels, and I'll tell you, when you go buy a lacing chisel, you're going to probably get them in a set. You get what you pay for. So if you're buying a cheap set, it's not going to last very long. Okay, you want them to stay sharp. This one has been around. I haven't had to use much beeswax on it, and it's been fantastic. And that's what made these holes here. So they're a little bit bigger holes. Okay, if you have access to a sewing machine that can handle that width of thickness of your leather, you can go ahead and make holes from your sewing machine. So you could just take the threads out and just run it through, and then you have some holes. This would have to be probably a 0 size harness needle, and you would still need to do that. Another way that you could do that, so say you have a sewing machine and you made these holes, but they need to be slightly a little bit bigger, you're going to need an awl. If you're doing leather work, you should have 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys, because you're going to have them in your hand all the time. You're going to use them all the time. And so what you're going to do is just make that hole a little bit bigger. Okay, and if you can see that up close, that hole just became a little bit bigger. That's all you need to do. Sometimes, depending on, like for the sample, I'll probably do another video on a jerk needle, because jerk needles are great for like doing your horn work, doing sheepskin, for like if you're going to redo your sheepskin on your saddle. Those kind of things, anything with sheepskin, definitely a jerk needle. Or fur, if you're making costumes with fur, that kind of stuff. But definitely want to use an awl, and that just makes the hole a little bit bigger. All right, so those are some of the ways that you can make holes. You could use your tiniest hole punch. However, that's still pretty big. Unless you're going to do lacing and you want that round, nice look to it, then you would want to do that. Okay, so that is pretty much how you would do a hole. Now, one of the things about holes are that you've got to make sure, like for example, on this one here, I made sure that they started at the same place. Okay, if you're going to make a hole, because we're going to turn this and put this back here, but you want to make sure that the holes are lined up. Otherwise, you're going to be doing cattywampus. Okay, so let me show you how to do that here. I'm going to bring this closer and show you here what I'm going to do. So if I'm going to do something that I have to butt them side by side, say you're making a wallet, say you're making a purse or whatever, definitely you want to make sure that they're butt. Can I go ahead and just hammer it through? Yes, you can, if it's thin enough. But if you're using 10 ounce, 12 ounce heavier, you may not be able to do that. But you could definitely do that. So you can use a mallet, a regular mallet, and do that. Now, it's all the way through, and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get that out? Well, it's easy to just sort of pull it at an angle, slowly at an angle. and pull it out. Or you can be smart and dip this in some beeswax because it'll make it nice and loose for you. But now we have our holes definitely the same on each side, okay? Or you can actually do them separately and then match them up. But it's a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging because you're going to have to take a ruler and measure how far you're going to start. Now, another thing too is like, oh crap, I'm done with this hole. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Okay, so we come to an end here. It's like, okay, how do I make it so that they're exactly the same? You're going to take your last one and put it in that last hole, and then you're going to hit it. Okay, that way you're staying same. If you were to take it and do it this way, oops, sorry, I'm so used to using a hammer most of the time. Okay, so you're using it this way, and then you go ahead and do it. Oh, I'm just going to do it next to it. Oh, that looks right. That looks about right. Okay, sure, not a problem. Let's go ahead. And then you do it. Go. I just pull at an angle and then it comes out. But if you see that there is a difference between each hole here. So if you just put it in the last one, you're always going to be on. And do you see how that I hit it too hard and it went too deep? These are going to, don't worry about that, because as you work with your leather, they shrink up and they even get smaller than that. So don't worry about your holes. Okay. So you'll need at least an odd hammer. You'll need your something to make the holes. Okay, so let's talk about the needles. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up again. So let's talk about the needles. The needles are, you can use all kinds of needles depending on what it is. So with English equipment that I repair, I use a lot of curved needles. They're sort of like a hook. This is not what we're talking about for what we're doing today, but there's all kinds of needles, all right? And then you can get up to your lacing needles. Those are big. These are just some of my other ones, okay? But today we're gonna talk about harness needles because that's what you're gonna use mostly. What size? There's 3 sizes on a general. There may be more, but I don't go past that because I don't need them. So when you get your needles, what I do is I take everything out of there and I keep them in the same packaging, but I mark what it is. So I put SM, so it's small, and that's a size 0. That's your English harness needle. That's a really small needle. And then you get your mediums. I think I'm out of mediums, but then you have your larges, which is pretty big size needles. Okay, harness needles. And then you have, oh, that's for lacing. Don't need that. So 9 times out of 10, I will use a 0. Okay, and they're very, very small. Depends on what type of thread I need to use. So if you're going to be doing anything with a 5-6 ounce leather, say it's a wallet, a coin purse, something small, you can use your sewing machine thread, especially if it's a big sewing machine like back here. You've got 207 threads. They're big, okay? Let me see if I can cut a piece off here. I'm in my skivvies today, guys. I'm not feeling too hot, but I wanted to make sure I got this done. So this thread here is a 207, okay? And we just might use this one to show you for an example. So definitely you could use this. You can use a waxed sinew. This one I would use if I had to do a hand. I would use definitely this or a 207 on a saddle skirting. So say you're skirting, some of it came loose, I would definitely do this. We do sell this on my website. You can go to Winter Circle, oh my God, that's the old name. Geez, am I dating myself? The leatherladyllc.com. Yeah, we used to be called Winter Circle Equine Center. But definitely, because we did everything. We had everything. It was a one-stop shop. but you can also use these as well. So I think what I'm going to do on this here, so we're going to use today, and you need scissors, of course, duh, you need scissors, and then I'm going to show you what else you're going to need to do. Okay, so we're getting set up. We're getting set up. So you have a million ways to do this. It's up to you how you do it. This is just the leather lady way, okay? So what you want to do is find the needles that you're going to use. We're going to use a 2-needle approach. You can do this with 1 needle. Say you broke needles and you're like, oh crap, I only have 1 needle. You can do it, and I'll show you a way to do that as well. What you don't want to do, I do this sometimes when I'm really low on needles, is use a curved needle. I mean, like your needle bent. It'll make it'll give you a headache, okay? You can use them, but it'll give you a headache because you got to figure out how to get the hole. You're not going to, trust me, if you can get away with not using a bent needle, don't. Okay. So what you're going to do here is you're going to thread your needle. Okay. And there, you could leave it if you wanted to. You don't have to. I get impatient. I'm Irish, and sometimes I get impatient. You can just leave it hanging. You could if you want to. But there is a way to lock them, and hopefully this will be patient. So you twist your threads and loosen it, okay? Just twist your thread and loosen your threads up. And then you take your needle and put it between the threads. Now, I might show you with the other one. Crazy. Let me see if I can do this with the white. Oops. Yeah, let me do it with the white so you can see it better. I'll just do this as a sample. So we're going to put this in there before I untwist. And sometimes you have to flatten this. If the hole is too big, I mean, the thing is, the thread is a little bit bigger, just flatten it. Or as my mother used to show me, it was disgusting, but she would go, and then she'd flatten it. Disgusting. And plus, in this day and age with germs and all this stuff that we have going on, you really don't want to do that, especially if you're doing somebody else's work. Okay? So you're just going to take it and twist it so that you're gonna see it opening up, okay? And then you're just gonna slide your needle in between that. Watch. Okay, it's gone through. You're gonna pull that down, and you're gonna pull, and lock it in. Okay, so now you're all locked in. And you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. I like this way just because you're moving fast and you want to be able to do that. So that's how you would get that threaded. Okay, so you could just leave it. You don't have to have that. I get going so fast. I'm impatient, so I sometimes don't even do that. Okay, so we're going to show you next actually how to set this up. And I'm going to do one of those things that I told you. I'm just going to leave it. Okay, so I have a needle on both ends. So you can tie them off and knot them if you want to. So I have a needle at both ends and my string, okay? So now I'm going to move the camera for a second and I'm going to show you the next step. Okay, so everybody's saying, what the heck is she doing with a vise? Well, I'm saving you some money if you don't have a stitching pony, okay? So this is a stitching pony, and I will give you a tip. We sell them as well. However, watch for them like on Amazon and stuff like that. This one is one that you have to sit on, okay? I would personally suggest that you get one that you clamp on to a table or anything like that. I personally hate stitching ponies, period. The reason being is I'm doing a lot of saddle work. I can't put a saddle in a stitching pony and all that kind of stuff. And you have to be able to be flexible to move around your saddle in order to be able to stitch. So It doesn't work for me. But for any projects or anything like that, you know what? This is what I've done is I've used, yes, a vise. Okay, the thing with a vise is they're going to be really rough here. So you just take, this is in one of my other videos too. So you take a piece of leather and put it there, and you take another piece of leather here and you put it here. So then you can take your other pieces of leather and just have it sticking up, and then you tighten the vise down. I can turn this vise, I can do whatever I want with the vise, I can lock it in to where I want it and everything like that. A cheap way to do a stitching pony, all right? So this is just for me because I'm doing stuff all the time, all right? So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna show you, now we've got the holes, we're getting ready to stitch it. Oh, but do I glue it? What do I do? You know, what do I do? What do I do? So what I suggest, oops, that's the wrong one. There we go. I did too many samples. So if you're doing a small project, you can actually put like a tape between them. This is like a permanent double-sided tape, and it will hold it in place. We sell these on our website as well. Everything I try to do is products that we sell on our website, you know, so you don't have to go everywhere. And the description below will tell you where to go. So all you're going to do is put it on there. It comes in different widths. So if you're doing a really tiny project, there is different widths for this. They do cost a little different when you're going thick or thin, but you just peel it off. And yes, it sticks to leather really, really well. And then you'll line your holes up. This tape here is permanent. You can get a tape that isn't permanent. However, I like the permanent tape. Now, if you're going to be sewing on your sewing machine, if your sewing machine can handle it, definitely put the tape a little bit lower, or it's going to gum up your needles, okay? You do want to put it a little bit lower so it doesn't gum up your needles, okay? So we're going to take this, we're going to put it into our little vise or our stitching pony. We're going to make sure we're all lined up. We're going to tighten that down. Okay, perfect. Now I just need to move this so I can show it to you somehow here. I've only got one camera, guys. Okay, so what you're going to do with your thread now, you've got needle on both ends. Okay, needle on both ends. And all you're going to do is put, let's see here if I can do it this way. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. There we go. So all you're going to do is put your needle, or put your one needle in one end. And this is where you might need to have also a pair of pliers. The reason being, if your hole is too small and you didn't use an awl, you might, especially when you're working on saddles, you're going to have to pull through. So you're just going to pull the needle through. You don't pull and bend it up or anything, or you're going to bend your needles. Okay. So you make sure that both sides are even, that you have the same amount of thread. If you're working on a big project, like you're doing the whole thing around your saddle, then you have a choice, okay? You can either do a very long one and get all tied up in it, or you can do probably about 3 feet, and then you can work with that. And then I'll show you how to tie them off, okay? So you got them both there. And so what you're gonna do is take that needle and you're just gonna go in this hole and come out the other side, okay? So that's gonna do that, right? And then all you're gonna do is take this needle from the back side. This is why I like the vise, I can show you better. And you're gonna go through that same hole, okay? This is where you wanna have your holes in line, okay? So I don't. Okay, so you can take your needle and you can push it through. With your heavier leathers, you're probably gonna do that, okay? I don't work with little things usually. So now you have one complete stitch, See that? The other thing is when you're doing a hand stitch, it is going to be stronger than your machine. So if you have a choice, yes, it takes longer, but it's a better choice, okay? So this also means that maybe my holes are too small and I can take my awl and make them bigger because it's getting tight, right? So I just take my awl, make the holes bigger, and then it becomes easier. Or I can go ahead and take some, what do you call that? Beeswax, and do that through, okay? So there we go, we've got that side. We're going through this here, the same hole. Now we pull it tight here because that's what's making that locking stitch, okay? And then you can just go back through the next hole. As you can tell, I do this. However, I don't do it on a stitching pony per se because I'm working on saddles majority of the time. So definitely. But again, somebody's thinking, well, what was the point of making the holes if you got to use the awl again? The reason being is sometimes that leather closes up also. It will shrink. Put it that way, those holes shrink. So sometimes those definitely need to be reopened again. Okay? It doesn't matter what side you start with, whatever side you want. If you want to do the back first. If you want to do the front first. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay. So you just keep doing this and say you're getting to the point where you're out of thread, okay? So let's show you what to do next. Okay, when you pull on both these strings, you'll see it tighten up. You want that, okay? So let's go ahead and say that these ones are at the end of their rope, pretty much, okay? So you don't have enough. Whoops, I'm out of thread, or I'm out of that. Okay. So we have this here that is basically, where you ended. So it's like, what do I do with these, now? So you're going to start back a few holes back, and you're going to go ahead and go through the last few holes to lock these last couple of pieces in so they don't come loose. Okay, so we're going to match up both on each side. I'm going to lock this in. Now, if you're using something with wax, like a wax thread, this is really good. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get these tangled up. You want to keep it separate. You go in that last one. Now, if you're working on horse equipment, you better be using a very strong thread. This thread is a 207. This would be really good for horse equipment. If you're getting down to 92, size 92 in your threads, that better be for lighter things that don't need a lot of, like your stress points, like at the end of your reins or at the cinch or anything like that where it can break easy. It's called a stress point. and you don't want that. Now I might lock that in a little bit here. So I've locked that piece in, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and lock this back side in. I'm gonna turn that so you can see it. So I'm going through, so you've got the long thread, you've got the one that's ended. I'm gonna go back through that hole, pull that a little bit so it doesn't come out. Whoop, where did I go? There we go. So once you get one thread in there, it's gonna be tight because now you have no room for 2 or 3 layers of thread, okay? So that's why you need a little needle nose thing. Okay, so now those are locked in. So I can go ahead and snip those off, and be careful not to snip the long one. And if you want, once you're all done, you can put a little bit of a lighter to it. I don't like to because I am afraid. Oh my God, I can't. I need to eat, guys. I have low blood sugar right now. And then I'll do that with the other side. Okay. There we go. And then you could burn it a little bit when you're all done. And then you just keep going. Okay? And that's it. That's all it is. This is a basic saddle stitch. You can call it, they'll call it a basic stitch, a basic saddle stitch, whatever, definitely. And this is a slower way, but when you're doing a bridle or a saddle or anything of that nature, you're gonna have to just move with it. You're gonna have to move it around. You're gonna have to put it upside down. You're gonna have to stand it up. Just make sure for yourself and your body, body, is that you do it so that you can sort of face it. You're not bent over it or anything like that. Because if it's a long job, you're going to end up maybe with back problems like me. But I did a lot of weightlifting when I was younger. So definitely that is what you want to do. And then we'll show you how to keep going and then finish it off. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish this off. Okay. To the end of this here, and so what I'm gonna do, because they're not the same as that is. So we're on the last hole and you want to finish it off, okay? So what you want to do is, there's several ways you can finish it off. So we're gonna put it both on one side, put that up there. And this, you know, if you don't care what it looks like, okay, this would be the way. And then you're gonna tie it off here. And you're just gonna make a couple of knots and go from there. However, most people don't like that, especially if you're wanting a professional finish. You will go in in the next hole or that hole and come through the center of that. So you're going to go between the pieces, okay? And then you're going to take that next piece. If this was on the opposite side, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take my needle out and pull this so that it's on the opposite. We don't want that one. We want the other one. I just want to show you a couple of different ways. Okay, so you've got this one in here in the center. Okay, so you need to get this one in the center. And then you tie your knots off. Okay, so you're going to get this one in the center. So you're going to go in that next hole, but you're going to hold it back. So this is why you don't want your tape also at the very, very end. So you're going to push that up and push that through there. And so you're going to have both pieces of thread in the center. Oh, well, there goes that needle. I don't need it anymore. Okay. And then you're going to take the knots and you're going to make the knots for the center. Okay. And you're just going to do a square knot. So you have two ways. You can put a knot on the outside or you can put a knot on the inside. If you're doing something and you're selling something like a wallet or something, you definitely want to have it not showing. It's more professional looking. Okay. So then you're just gonna snip the ends. They don't have, and you can just tuck them in. Tuck them inside there. Okay. And then the last thing you're going to do, let's see if I can. The last thing you're going to do, okay, you have your stitch. Okay, that one's sort of stuck out a little bit, and you may want to just snip it, or you can actually put a little, what do you call that? A lighter and do that. But then the next thing you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to pound it a little bit with a hammer. And you're just going to take these and you're just going to pound it a little bit and flatten it. And then there you go. Whoop, we missed a stitch. If that were to happen, you can go back in with an extra piece of thread. If this was the front, then that's fine. If this is the back, but if you missed a stitch, don't panic. Just take another piece of thread and just do that and then tie it off in the end. I have done that before on saddles and I would have to go back and do that. I'm not going to sit there and undo the whole thing and then go back and do it. What a pain in the butt. But you can see that this stitch, you can see the tape there, that's going to stay there, but definitely you've got now. That is a basic stitch that I use almost every time I do saddle work, bridle work, repair work, whatever it is that I do with the equestrian industry. It's just extremely, extremely important to know your thread size, what you're working on, because if you were to use too small of a thread size on a critical piece of equipment and somebody got hurt or killed with that saddle or bridle because it malfunctioned from a repair, you can kiss your house, your business, and everything else goodbye. Because if they want to sue you, you're screwed. All right, so I forgot to show you the other way. So if you only have one needle, say you broke a needle, you only have one needle that you want to use and your thread, you can do that. So what you're going to do is just cut your thread, put it through the needle through the one end. You're going to take the other end and make a knot. Okay, so you'll need to wet your fingers somehow. You could use a spray bottle and whatever on your fingers, or you can do it grandma's and mom's way. And go ahead and make a knot. So you're going to hold the end, you're going to twist it around your finger and just roll, okay? And then you get a little knot there. You don't need a really big knot. It's just enough to be able to go in and hold your thread into the space. We're going to make sure that the knot is on the inside. Okay, so let's get going with this part here. What we're going to do here is show you how to do it with just the one side. So you're going to take your needle, you're going to go on the inside like you finished the last one, okay? And if you didn't watch that part, go back and watch it. So we're going to pull it through from the inside, okay? And you're going to get to your knot. And if you've got a tail, just tuck it in, you know, and you can take your tail and tuck it in. Tuck it between your legs. There. Take your tail and tuck it between your legs. Okay, so these holes are probably not as accurate as I want them to be. So you're just going to take it and go in the next hole. There we go. So I started here. I have an extra hole on the other side. So ignore that part. This I just threw together so I could teach you. So you're going to pull that through. And then you're going to go back in the other way. You're just going to go in the next hole. Okay. Now you're going to have a space. See how that comes out and it has a space? This little thing better get the flip out of the way. It's going to have a space, but that's okay. Don't worry about that. You're just going to go in the next hole. See how there's a space there? Ignore that. You want that space there, okay? If you don't have a space, you're doing something wrong. There we go. So we come back out. So now you've got space, space, thread, thread. Okay, and you're gonna go back that way again. And you should have a space on the other side. Okay, are you getting the gist of it? So you're going to have stitch space, stitch space, stitch space, okay? So you're like, okay, but how do we do it like the other way to make it nice and strong? So you're just going to go backwards. You're going to go into the space that has the thread. Okay, so now you're going to have no space. Okay, so then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and then you're going to go into the hole that has the thread. So you see how that's becoming a solid line. Then you have a line. This is how easy it should be. It should have been, oops. See, I didn't tie off my needle, guys. It's better to tie your needles off. This is just for demonstration purposes, but you really should tie your needle off. It'll make your life so much easier, especially if you're doing a big project. Nothing more. And then the other thing too, sometimes depending on the thread, it frays. So you're cutting yourself short more and more and more of thread. So, or it'll just put one thing through. So just make sure that you tie it off. All right. So we're putting that through that one. I think I had trouble with this hole before. Yep. Oh my gosh, come on now. These things are just sticking out is why. And again, there we go. Okay, so you see that we have that line there? And then what we can do is, you've got this, sometimes it'll stick out here. And to finish this off, there's a couple ways you can do it, but what you can do is you can take your needle and you can go back down through one of the stitches and pull it through. Tighten it, pull it, and then go back up through a stitch. There we go. And that also tightens it, and then you tighten it. And there you go, you've locked that in. You could do it 2 or 3 stitches. Whatever, you feel you need to. However, it's gonna lock it in. Okay, and then what you just do is just take your little snippers and snip it off. You could burn it, but there's no need to. Some people, I don't like it, but some people will even put a dab of super glue. But there you go, and it's just as strong as the other one. Okay, I'm pulling on this. you know, and you can see the tape in there, but it's definitely, and you could just burn that off with a little, the edge with a little, what do you call it? Lighter, you know, for cigarettes and stuff. I use those a lot to burn things off. So that's how you would do that with one needle, okay? So I hope that part was helpful for you, just because if you don't have a bunch of needles and you need it and you need to do one, you could do it that way. Sometimes it's actually a little bit faster because with the 2 needles, you got to be moving them and holding them and then this way and that way. It just depends. I work with long pieces because I do a lot around the saddles. If I'm restitching some parts that are broken on bridles and things like that. So I'm always putting one end down, or if I'm working on fleece, I'll stick it in the fleece so I can just grab it really easy. It just depends. But for me, when I do certain things, I got Big Bertha, my sewing machine, and I'm going to use her. I hope this was helpful. Any questions, comments, concerns, please put it in the comments below. And don't forget to go to theleatherladyllc.com if you're looking for saddle parts, we've got all kinds of things. We create, we manufacture, we do manufacturing of horse equipment. If you're looking for like, oh, I don't know, just go on there and peek. We also have a new wine series that we're doing as well. And just play around. Sheepskin is another big thing, and I'll show you how to use a jerk needle next on like saddle horns and sheepskin, because that is one, if you're doing fur of any kind, you want a jerk needle. You don't want to do this process. You will pull your hair out. I'm surprised I still have hair left. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.